Okay, so tutorial 3 is all about using the revolve tool. So in this one we'll get a chance to practice using the revolve tool and seeing how we can make axially symmetric shapes using that feature. So just head over to Creo. Okay, so once you're in Creo, just remember to select your working directory, making sure that you're saving everything in the correct place. And remember, we go New, Part, give it a suitable name, and untick the default template. And we just need to select millimeters. Okay, so to use a revolve tool, we start in exactly the same way as we do with the extrude tool. So we start by generating a sketch. Okay, let's go to Sketch View. And so for this shape, I'm just going to put a general outline using the line tool, and then we can modify it to get the fine details that we require. So first of all, just use the line tool. And so because this is a revolved part, what we actually need is half of the shape. So you see all of the heights when I input the dimensions will be half that's actually shown on the drawing. Okay. Okay, and also when we revolve we need to make sure that we have a completed outline. Okay, so I'm just going to change some of these dimensions. I want them to be from the center line. Okay, so I want this height here, this height here, this height here. So again, remember that to get these dimensions we click the first line, press hold Control, and then click the second line, and then press the middle mouse button. Okay, so let's change up some of these values. Actually, what I'm going to do is actually add in this dimension here. See what's happened is Creo's put in an overall size dimension, so when I change one it just keeps removing another one, so it can be a little bit annoying sometimes. Okay, so we've got rid of that dimension. Okay, so now we can go about changing some of these. Okay, so let's start from here. So this should be a diameter of 13, so we can go 13 divided by 2. This bit here is 20, so 20 divided by 2. This bit is 15, so and this bit is 25. Right, so this end bit here, it specifies that it's actually an M16 by 1. So it's basically, in real life, that would be a threaded part. Okay, so it's using a metric thread of M16. So that means that the outer diameter of the thread is actually 16. So it's quite common on engineering drawings not to actually display the threads, because they can be quite complicated to model and they don't necessarily add that much to the engineering drawing. So as long as the manufacturer knows what you want, then you don't necessarily need to show it. So that's what's been done here. It's just a symbolic thread, and it's saying that it should be an M16. So that means that the actual diameter of this is 16 millimeters. So we'll use 8. Okay, now we can change these. So this should be 15. Okay, so in this section here there's the curved feature and then there's the slope as well. So we know that the total length of this is actually going to be 15 plus 10, so 25. This bit's 20, this bit's 4, this bit's 16. Okay. So most of this is okay now. It's just in this section here we have a curved section with a radius of 20, and then there's also a slope that comes down. So what I'm actually going to do is show you that I'm going to leave these lines here, but I'm going to convert them into construction lines because they're quite useful. So if I click on them, press Control, and I can highlight all three of them, and then if I okay, so now I just need to add in this section here. So we've got a curved section that needs to have a radius of 20, and then we've got a sloped section down here. And so what's really useful is if we keep these lines here, because they're obviously giving us the overall shape, but if I turn them into construction lines, they'll be there to reference, but then they won't form part of the overall shape. So if I click on this, press Control again, you'll see that this little dialog box comes up, and if you click on this one here, so that says toggle construction, so you can turn any like driving line, so any actual geometry line, into a construction line at any moment. And you can also do the same, so if you draw a construction line by accident, you can go back and turn it into a normal line. Okay, so if I click there, you'll see that it's now a dotted line, and also my shape's no longer complete. So now what I'm going to do is add in this radius section, and to do that I'm going to use the arc tool. So if I click on this arc tool here, so first thing I need to do is click this point here and drag the mouse down and then drag it along. Now don't snap to the midpoint because it's not the middle that we need, so I'll just click here, and then what I want to do is form a tangent with this line here. So you can see here I get this little symbol appear that means there's a tangent with that line, and then I just left click and then press the middle mouse button. So now so that's just a tangent, and it will actually change position dependent on this radius. So if I change this radius to 20, you'll see that it changes position because it's just a tangent to that line. Okay, and now this one here, so I'll just use the line tool, and this is just a straight line. So you go from here to here, and what I need to do is set this, so on the drawing it says that this distance from here to here is 10, so I'm going to use the dimension tool to add that in. 10. Okay, come out of the dimension tool, and then again just use the line tool to link this together. Okay, so now I've got the overall outline for my shape. Now when we revolve, it's really important that we do this next step, so we need to add a center line. So this tells the program where you're revolving around. Okay, so we add a center line, just click here, and you see that we can add this line at any orientation, but in this case we're going to be revolving around this axis. Press the middle mouse button and we click OK. Okay, so now if I've got the sketch highlighted, I can use the revolve tool. So if I just click revolve here, you'll see that it's now revolving that section about my center line. Just click OK. So just to finish this off, there are a couple of other features. So there's some chamfers, so again we can just use the chamfer tool. So they're not actually specified, but we'll just put them in. Okay. So that's tutorial 3, and again just remember to save your part.